Welcome to Dr. Jarrett's Science Shenanigans Teacher Edition. I'm excited for you to be here with me today. I'm excited to share my knowledge of the grade 5 science standards, specifically what the students will need to know and will not need to know to pass their 5th grade science assessment. Do not forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again.
I've been passionate about empowering educators in science education for many years. My dedication to science education also led to my dissertation, which focused on developing impactful lessons for science improvement. Since 2007, I've worked with over 75 schools across Florida, assisting in boosting grade 5 science scores. Together, we're making a difference in how young minds explore and engage with science. I'm so excited about you being here with me today. This benchmark that we're talking about today is SC.5.P.8.1. It is compare and contrast the basic properties of solids, liquids, gases, such as mass, volume, color, texture, and temperature. This benchmark is full of secret vocabulary. And what I mean by secret vocabulary is this benchmark is learned in the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, and the 5th grade, but it is not building upon each other where you keep the vocabulary and you just build upon it each year. Vocabulary disappears. So in the 3rd grade, the students are learning about solids and liquids. They're also comparing temperatures of solids and liquids. They're measuring and comparing mass and volume of solids and liquids. They're comparing materials such as objects according to their size, shape, color, texture, and hardness. Now, that's 3P8.3, not 3P8.1. 3P8.1 says they're measuring temperatures. 5P8.1 says they're comparing and they're contrasting these properties. Then 3P8.3 talks about properties: size, shape, color, texture, hardness. That means that size is not in 5P8.1, shape is not in 5P8.1, color is in 5P8.1, texture is in 5P8.1, hardness is not in 5P8.1. So you actually have to include those in 5P8.1 because they're also assessed standards. That means that their vocabulary that the students may come in contact with. Also, when we get to 4P8.1, now the students are also going to add odor, taste, and attraction to magnets. So with that vocabulary, it's not just the one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, the three properties of matter, and then it's just not that. It is a bunch of properties of matter. So it's not just solid, liquid, and gas. It is how are you comparing and contrasting the basic properties, including all of them, including 3P8.3 and 4P8.1. We got to include all of that too. All of those physical properties have to be included in what we teach the 5th grade students because they may see any of those vocabulary terms. In your 5th grade book, it may not have those vocabulary terms listed. So you may want to create an anchor chart that has them all inclusive so that when you're referring to them, the students know what you're talking about. If there is an activity that the students are working on, you want to make sure that you include those physical properties as well, because that activity will If it's a fifth grade activity, it's only going to have the fifth grade physical properties. It's not going to include the third and the fourth. And I know I say that a lot, I stress that a lot. It's because the fifth grade assessment is made 30 to 40% of that test is third and fourth grade benchmarks. So if you don't include that in, then you're missing a chance for knowledge that the students could have to be able to get a 3, 4, or 5 on their state assessment. And we're shooting for the 4s and 5s. That's what we're shooting for. Um, Also, items will not address particle behavior. What do I mean by that? In my book, it has 3 cylinders. One says solid, one says liquid, one says gas. The solid one has packed particles. The middle one, which is the liquid, it has some particles. And then the gas particles are going crazy everywhere. They're not going to assess that. Can you still teach it? Yes, you can introduce it to the students so that they can know, okay, a gas, particles are going everywhere, a liquid, woo, they're moving around, and a solid, they're moving, but they're like shuddering like this, right? Okay, fine. That was it. That was the teaching of that. Boom, move on. They do not need to punch out holes with a hole puncher with different color construction paper and paste each one of those onto a piece of paper to show that they have learned about a solid, liquid, and a gas, because they have not. That is not going to show that they know that. What will show if they know that, if they're able to compare the properties of what a solid, a liquid, and a gas is, and then be able to apply that to a multiple choice type of question. That will then show that they have mastered that concept. But that is a small part of this benchmark, a very small part of that benchmark. So, yes, students will have to compare and contrast what is a solid, what is a liquid, and what is a gas. They will not be assessed on the particle behavior. So you should really focus on what that looks like when we're talking about mass, when we're talking about volume, when we're talking about texture. Though that would be absolutely perfect for you to talk about. Also, the students would benefit from having some type of chart where it has all of the properties on the top, and on the um, left hand side is different items. So maybe an apple, maybe applesauce, maybe apple juice. Um, they can also possibly have an egg. Why? Because the odor smells awful, right? But an apple could smell sweet, but it could taste sour. I always like to use lemons because they are beautiful. They have this bright yellow color. But when you taste it, it's not sweet. Candy grapes. Candy grapes are great for this. Especially because the kids are thinking that they're about to eat a regular grape. Nope, it's a candy grape. So once they start writing down what is the physical properties of that, they have a lot of fun. So this particular benchmark, it is going to be essential for them to have materials. They need to do a lab, but the lab must consist of them looking at items and then determining what is that physical property of that item. Will you have to have a magnet? Yes. Why? Because attraction to magnets was taught to them in the fourth grade, but it needs to be applied now. So they should be also trying to see if that item attracts to a magnet or not. They're not going to be talking about density. So don't do density. They're not talking about that. They're not required unit conversions to compare data. So they're not going to be doing that. They will not be assessing units of measurement. They will not assess the difference between weight and mass. That I promise you, they will learn in middle school. They definitely will learn that in middle school. That is a middle school benchmark. In fact, it is an eighth grade middle school benchmark. And so they will not be assessed for that. Items may refer to common tools used to measure basic properties of solid liquids and gases, but will not assess the specific knowledge of the tools. The kids got to play with the tools. Come on. You got to give them a thermometer. You need to give them a balance beam, also a scale. They need to have measuring cups. They need to have graduated cylinders. They got to have them. They got to have them. Get some plastic ones. Those are perfect for fifth graders because they're going to drop the water on the floor. Just automatically know that in your head and have some paper towels right there. Right. So they're going to need to use the tools to measure different items. Are they actually going to measure different items on their state test? No. They will see pictures, they may see diagrams, they may see charts. These things are called text features in the reading. And so it's going to be important for the students to be able to look at a chart and answer questions about properties. They're going to be very comfortable doing that if they've worked with the tools. That's going to help them out a lot. I would actually have the kids play with the tools, do different things with the tools for one day, just so they can get it out of their system. And then the next day, I would actually have them to perform the labs. Um, just because they're going to play with the tools, and that's not what I want them to do. I want them to learn the materials, not play with the tools. So I got to give them a chance to play with the tools so that they get out of their system. Items also will not assess the water cycle. So they're not going to assess the water cycle for this benchmark. Water cycle is a different benchmark, and that's in earth science, not in physical science. So when we're talking about this, don't worry about the water cycle. Only worry about what is a solid, a liquid, and a gas. You might also want them to do an activity where you take one of the small bottles of water and you measure that bottle of water. You find the mass of the water, the volume of the water, and the temperature of the water at room temperature, and then you put it in the freezer and then have the students to measure those things again, and that will give them a great activity for mass and for volume, also temperature. So those are just some small little activities that you can do very quickly with the students. Do not forget your additional vocabulary. I know this lesson or video is a little bit longer than my other ones. But this is very important because that fifth grade benchmark is missing some vocabulary from third and fourth grade that they would have learned that you need to either teach them or you need to review with them. I hope this has helped with 5P8.1, and it's also assessed as benchmarks. Thank you so much again for watching this session. The book, Unveiling the Power of Impactful Science Instruction, is available on Amazon, and it is a glimpse into my dissertation investigating the improvement in science achievement among fifth grade science students when using the instructional model.